Have you ever watched a food advertisement and suddenly felt hungry, even when you just ate? You see crispy fries, melted cheese, or a perfectly cooked burger, and somehow your brain starts saying, "I want that." But here's the strange part. The advertisement didn't feed you. It only showed you an image. So why can a few seconds of video create such a strong craving? The answer lies deep inside your brain, where visual cues, memories, and reward signals can turn an ordinary advertisement into a powerful trigger. When you see a food ad, your brain doesn't just see a burger, it starts imagining the experience. The golden crust, dripping cheese, sizzling sound, and slow-motion bite are carefully designed to make your brain predict taste, texture, and satisfaction. And that prediction matters. Before the food ever reaches your mouth, your brain can begin preparing a reward response based on what you see and hear. Suddenly, you're not simply watching an advertisement, you're mentally experiencing the food. That's the clever part. The ad doesn't need to make you eat. It only needs to make your brain want to eat. But why can one picture of food suddenly make you want to eat? Because your brain learns associations. Over time, the sight, smell, sound, or even a familiar brand can become a cue that predicts food. When that cue appears, brain systems involved in motivation and reward can become more active, even before you take a single bite. That's why a food ad can catch you at the perfect moment and turn a simple image into a craving. You may not have been hungry seconds ago, but now that crispy burger feels impossible to ignore. The ad didn't create food in your stomach, it changed what your brain was expecting next. Here's the surprising part. You don't need to eat the food for your brain to start chasing it. When a familiar food cue appears, your brain can connect that signal with the reward it expects to receive. Dopamine helps reinforce this learning and motivates you to move toward rewarding experiences. So when an advertisement shows that perfect bite, your brain may not simply think, "That looks good." It can create a stronger feeling, "I want that." The more often you see similar cues and experience the reward afterward, the stronger the learned connection can become. That's why a 5-second food ad can sometimes stay in your mind long after it disappears. Think about this. You see a food ad today and forget it tomorrow. But then you see the same brand again next week, and suddenly it feels familiar. That's no accident. Your brain is constantly learning which sights, sounds, and smells are connected to rewarding experiences. A logo, jingle, color, or even a familiar food image can become a mental shortcut. If you've enjoyed that food before, the advertisement can reactivate that memory and make the product feel more desirable. You may think you're choosing based on taste or hunger, but sometimes your brain is simply following a familiar path. It has practiced many times before. Here's the twist. The goal isn't to defeat your brain, it's to catch it in the act. When a food ad suddenly makes you want something, pause and ask, "Was I hungry before I saw this?" That simple question creates a gap between the cue and your decision. You can also reduce repeated exposure to tempting food content, especially when you're already vulnerable to cravings. You won't stop noticing food completely, and you don't need to. The real power comes from recognizing the trigger before it silently turns, "That looks good," into, "I need it right now." Next time a food ad makes your mouth water, don't blame yourself. Ask a different question. Did I choose this craving, or was it triggered? A few seconds of colorful food, familiar music, or a perfect close-up can activate memories and expectations your brain has learned over time. You may feel like the craving appeared from nowhere, but your brain was quietly connecting the dots. The advertisement didn't control you like a remote, it simply pressed a button your brain already knew. And once you recognize that button, you gain something powerful. The chance to pause before the craving becomes a choice.